The film opens in the harsh, relentless heat of the Iraqi desert, where a long American military convoy pushes forward across miles of sand and broken terrain. The sun is blinding, the air shimmering with waves of heat, and every vehicle is coated in dust kicked up by hundreds of wheels. Inside the trucks, exhaustion is obvious. Most soldiers have barely slept in 2 days. Their eyes are heavy and their movement sluggish. The landscape offers no comfort, only endless emptiness stretching out in every direction. As the convoy pushes deeper into the desert, one of the heavy 5-ton transport trucks suddenly lurches and sinks half-deep into a soft patch of sand. Drivers shout warnings, brakes screech, and the entire line of vehicles is forced to halt. Soldiers climb out, their boots sinking into the hot ground as they inspect the stuck vehicle. It quickly becomes clear that the truck didn't just hit soft sand. It hit a hidden sinkhole that snapped something vital in the drivetrain. Jessica Lynch, along with the other young soldiers from the 507th Maintenance Company, exits her vehicle to see what happened. Despite her fatigue, she tries to stay positive, joking lightly with her fellow soldiers. Around her, the unit shares small moments of humor to cope with the long journey, complaining about bad coffee, the heat, and the endless boredom that comes with supply missions. These rare moments of levity show their humanity, revealing that most of them had never expected to be this close to combat. As recovery teams arrive and hook cables onto the trapped truck, tension mixes with boredom. Some soldiers lean against their vehicles, sipping weak, military-issue coffee, while others swap photographs of loved ones back home. Jessica and her close friend talk about their families, their future plans, and how strange it feels to be so far from home in a place that looks nothing like the America they left. These conversations subtly highlight how young, inexperienced, and unprepared many of them are for what's ahead. While waiting for the truck to be freed, Jessica's sergeant checks the GPS navigation device only to discover the system is malfunctioning. The battery is dying, and the memory is unstable. With no reliable electronic guidance, they're forced to rely on old-fashioned paper maps. But the desert roads are poorly marked, the terrain constantly shifting, and even the maps are vague. Despite this uncertainty, the convoy pushes on, attempting to follow Route Blue toward their designated objective. After struggling through the desert and reassembling their formation, the convoy continues forward, unaware that every mile is pulling them deeper into danger. The road becomes smoother and gradually transitions from open desert to signs of civilization. Cracked pavement appears beneath the trucks, and abandoned structures rise like ghosts along the horizon. The soldiers tense up instinctively. Cities in a war zone hold far more threats than empty sand. Radio communication becomes weaker the farther they travel. Static interferes with every transmission, and attempts to reach their command post go unanswered. The team realizes they may have drifted out of their assigned range, but with no working GPS and confusing maps, they have no choice except to trust the road ahead. Soon, the legendary Euphrates River comes into view, its waters cutting through the dry landscape like a lifeline. The senior sergeant confirms the worst. They've unintentionally drifted into the outskirts of Nazariah, a city known for heavy resistance. The rules of war suddenly feel different here. As the convoy rolls across an Iraqi bridge, a tense silence settles over the soldiers. Civilians gather along the roads, watching. Some hold their children tightly. Others stare with cautious curiosity. Jessica and the other soldiers look out from their vehicles, trying to read the unfamiliar expressions on the faces of strangers. This is not the cheering crowd they had imagined. No celebrations. No waving flags. Only uncertainty. At a makeshift Iraqi checkpoint, guards stand with rifles slung over their shoulders. They do not raise their weapons or attack, but they also do not smile. They simply watch the American vehicles pass. The Americans prepare for anything, hands gripping their weapons, awaiting the slightest threat, but the guards let them through. The convoy continues deeper into the city. Every shadow, every window, every rooftop feels like a possible hiding spot for an enemy fighter. Children stand barefoot near the road, dust swirling around their small feet. Shopkeepers peek, from behind metal shutters. Elderly men stand silently in doorways. Jessica feels the weight of dozens of eyes following them, studying them. The soldiers whisper to each other, nervous but pretending not to be. Suddenly, the mood shifts again. Down a parallel street, an old pickup truck appears. Its bed holds a man armed with an AK-47 and a mounted machine gun. The vehicle moves quietly but deliberately, matching the convoy's speed from a distance. When the squad leader reports it through the radio, anxiety spikes. This is not normal civilian behavior. This is surveillance. This is preparation. Still, the convoy tries to maintain order, expecting command guidance. But communication is too weak, too broken. The officers decide to turn around at the next open area large enough for the vehicles. Their goal, retrace the route and escape the city. But the roads of Nazariah twist unpredictably. Buildings close in. Traffic barriers narrow their path. The sense of being watched intensifies. The atmosphere inside the convoy shifts from tension to outright fear as the trucks crawl deeper into the narrow, unfamiliar streets of Nazariah. The buildings loom closer, turning the road into a tight corridor with almost no room to maneuver. Every soldier can feel it. Something is profoundly wrong. The convoy commander studies the intersecting alleys and broken storefronts, searching desperately for a safe route to turn around. But before they can act, the situation unravels. At the end of the street, a sudden wave of people appears. They are not cheering. They are not waving. They stand as a wall of silent, unmoving figures, men, women, and even a few children, blocking the path forward. Before the soldiers can process what they are seeing, several individuals melt back into the side streets. Then the first shot cracks through the air. It is impossible to tell where it came from. The sound reverberates between the buildings, echoing in every direction. Instantly, chaos ignites. Bullets begin raining down on the convoy from multiple positions, windows above, side alleys, rooftops, and hidden doorways. The civilians scatter, revealing fighters armed and ready for a coordinated assault. The convoy erupts into movement. Drivers slam their vehicles into reverse, but the road is too narrow and too full of trucks to maneuver cleanly. Engines roar uselessly as the vehicles collide, scrape, or get trapped. Soldiers inside the back of transport trucks shout warnings, diving for cover as bullets punch through the thin metal walls. Jessica's truck jerks violently as the driver attempts to back up. The engine struggles, grinding loudly as shattered glass rains across the cab. She feels every impact, every vibration, her heart thundering in her chest. The Fedayeen fighters, hidden and relentless, unleash a storm of gunfire and rocket-propelled grenades. An RPG streaks across the street with a sickening whoosh, slamming into the side of one of the 5-ton trucks. The explosion shakes the entire block, sending fire and fragments flying. Shrapnel slams into nearby buildings. Windows explode outward like brittle shells. One of the Humvees tries to break through a makeshift barricade of burned-out cars and debris, but the wheels spin helplessly against the obstacles. From behind cover, enemy fighters take advantage of the blockage, firing directly into the convoy's center. A machine gun opens up from a rooftop, pinning soldiers in place. Shouts fill the radio. Can't back up. We're pinned. Where's the rest of the convoy? We're taking casualties. We need help now. The communication is frantic, overlapping, and nearly useless in the chaos. Jessica's vehicle struggles to move, but suddenly hits a patch of uneven ground. The steering jerks out of control. The driver fights to regain control, but it's too late. Their truck slams into a concrete wall with brutal force. Jessica is thrown violently against the interior, pain exploding through her body. For a moment, she can't breathe. Everything feels distant, muffled, surreal. Smoke fills the air. Screams and gunfire blend into a single overwhelming roar. Some soldiers leap out of their disabled vehicles, desperately trying to drag wounded teammates to safety behind the wreckage. Others fire into the rooftops, trying to suppress the enemy long enough to regroup. But the ambush is too well coordinated, too overwhelming. The narrow streets leave no room for tactical movement. Vehicles burn. Soldiers fall. Confusion reigns. Nearby, another truck attempts to drive through a barricade, but enemy fighters swarm toward it, firing relentlessly. A grenade explodes beneath the engine block, sending the hood flying upward as flames engulf the cab. The convoy has become a trap, a tight, enclosed kill zone with no escape. Amid the chaos, Jessica's consciousness flickers. She feels the world tilting, sound drifting in and out. The attack continues around her, but she is fading, overwhelmed by pain and shock. The ambush is decisive, brutal, and devastating. This moment marks the collapse of the convoy's mission and the beginning of a survival nightmare that will echo far beyond the city's walls. Smoke hangs thick over the shattered street as the ambush rages on. Fires burn inside destroyed vehicles, casting an orange glow through the rising dust. The crack of rifles, the thunder of explosions, and the desperate cries for help create a nightmarish wall of sound. The convoy has splintered into fragments, small pockets of soldiers trapped in different parts of the city, cut off from each other and from any hope of reinforcement. Amid the chaos, several American soldiers are surrounded. Their ammunition runs dangerously low. The return fire grows weaker as magazines empty and weapons malfunction from overuse and sand. One by one, soldiers are forced into impossible decisions: fight until the last bullet or surrender in the hope of surviving the day. Some never get the choice. A group of soldiers attempts to flee their disabled truck, dragging wounded teammates across the street and taking cover behind a collapsed wall. But the enemy fire is unforgiving. Sharp cracks ring out, and 2 soldiers fall instantly. The survivors try to pull them to safety, but are overwhelmed by the intensity of the assault. Another Humvee is hit by an RPG. The explosion flips it sideways, landing hard against another vehicle. The crew inside, dazed and bleeding, struggles to escape. One soldier crawls through the broken door, only to find himself staring into the barrels of enemy rifles. He raises his hands slowly, shaking, knowing he cannot fight back. In another corner of the battlefield, Specialist Edgar Hernandez and others are trapped behind their overturned truck. The enemy closes in from multiple directions. Edgar fires until his rifle clicks empty. He looks down at the weapon in disbelief, as if willing the magazine to refill itself. But there is nothing left to do. Surrounded, he lifts his hands into the air. Farther down the road, Sergeant James Riley continues resisting despite multiple injuries. His face is streaked with sweat and dust. He fires one last burst before the weapon jams. With no cover remaining and enemy fighters pressing closer, he drops his rifle and slowly stands, raising both hands in surrender. Pockets of American soldiers are now either dead, unconscious, or captured. And then there is Jessica. Her truck, already broken from the crash, lies partially on its side. The windshield is shattered, the metal crumpled inward. Inside, Jessica drifts in and out of consciousness, her body battered from the impact. Pain radiates through her limbs. She tries to speak, but only a faint, breathless sound escapes her. Enemy fighters rush toward the wreckage. Jessica's driver, barely alive, is pulled from the cab. Her teammates are unconscious or critically injured. The Iraqi fighters pry open the damaged door, their shadows falling over Jessica. Her vision blurs, voices echoing like distant whispers. She can't lift her arms. She can't resist. She barely understands what is happening as she is dragged from the cab and placed onto a stretcher. Her condition is critical. Bones shattered, internal injuries severe, barely any strength left in her body. The captured soldiers, including Jessica, are transported through the streets, watched by hostile civilians who shout angrily at them. The fighters treat the prisoners roughly, shoving them forward with rifle butts or forcing them into trucks. For the Americans, it is a terrifying and humiliating moment. Jessica, still slipping in and out of consciousness, feels her stretcher bump against every crack in the road as she's rushed toward an Iraqi hospital. The world vibrates around her, sirens shouting, the thud of running footsteps, but it all feels like a dream slipping away. She is taken inside the hospital, disappearing behind a set of doors that slam shut behind her. Outside, The city falls silent again, except for the distant gunfire. Bodies of fallen American soldiers lie scattered in the sand, their vehicles burning beside them. The few survivors who escape capture are left alone, injured and traumatized, hiding wherever they can until help arrives. Jessica Lynch is carried through the hospital doors on a stretcher, half conscious, her face pale and her movements weak. The building she is brought into is not a peaceful sanctuary of healing. It is a battleground of its own, caught between civilians, medical staff, and armed paramilitary fighters. The hallways smell of blood, dust, sweat, and the thick scent of disinfectant struggling to overpower the odor of war. Inside, chaos is everywhere. Doctors rush back and forth between patients, trying to treat the endless stream of injured civilians and soldiers. Children cry in crowded hallways. Family members beg nurses for help. The electricity flickers dangerously, threatening to plunge the hospital into darkness at any moment. Even the water supply is unreliable. This is a hospital in a war zone, overwhelmed on every level. And in the middle of it all lies Jessica, broken, bleeding, and alone. The first doctor to reach her is shocked by her condition. Her legs are swollen, bones possibly fractured in multiple places. She is dehydrated, trembling, and barely responsive. Her military uniform, torn, dusty, soaked in blood, identifies her instantly as an American soldier. That alone makes the situation extremely dangerous. Although the medical staff wants to help, they are not the ones in control of this place. Armed Fedayeen fighters stand guard in the hallways, using the hospital as a base of operations. Their presence casts a shadow over every decision. The doctors understand that treating an American prisoner could bring severe punishment, or worse, from these unpredictable militants. Still, their training compels them to provide care. This is where Dr. Muhammad, a gentle, soft-spoken Iraqi man, enters the story. He is not a soldier. He is not political. He is simply a doctor who believes deeply in humanity. When he sees Jessica's fragile state, something inside him shifts. She reminds him of his own young daughter, small, vulnerable, and innocent in a violent world. His heart aches at the sight. Despite the danger, he decides that he must help her. He instructs the nurses to clean her wounds, check her vital signs, and administer pain medication. But helping her is not easy. The Fedayeen barge into the room, demanding information. They question the doctors aggressively. They want to know Jessica's condition, her identity, her rank, whether she is conscious. Their tone is threatening. The doctors answer carefully, trying not to provoke them. Dr. Muhammad remains calm, though fear tightens in his chest. He knows these fighters are unpredictable men who could kill without hesitation. Yet he stands between them and Jessica, insisting she needs treatment immediately. Remarkably, they allow the doctors to continue, for now. Jessica drifts in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she hears Arabic voices around her. Sometimes she hears the faint hum of medical machines. Other times she hears nothing at all, only the pounding of her own heartbeat echoing inside her skull. She doesn't know where she is, who is near her, or if she will survive. As the hours pass, the hospital staff struggles to care for her with limited resources. They have too few antibiotics, too few bandages, and too little time. The building trembles as nearby explosions rock the city. The lights flicker again, threatening to plunge the hospital into chaos. Meanwhile, Dr. Muhammad faces an internal storm. He knows that helping Jessica could place his entire family at risk. The Fedayeen do not tolerate anything that remotely resembles helping the Americans. Yet when he looks at Jessica, weak, terrified, unable to move, he cannot walk away. He cannot pretend not to see her suffering. His conscience won't allow it. Quietly, secretly, he begins to gather information about her injuries, her condition, and her location in the hospital. He even risks writing down critical details on scraps of paper. These actions could mean death if discovered. The hospital becomes a battlefield of moral choices. The doctors caught between duty and fear the militants, who want control the dying, who need help, and the American prisoner, who must survive long enough to be rescued as night settles over Nazariah. Jessica sleeps fitfully, unaware that her rescue will depend on the courage of strangers, particularly one Iraqi doctor who risks everything to protect a woman he has never met. The hospital is quiet for a moment, but the danger is growing. And soon, the world will learn the truth. While Jessica lies in the Iraqi hospital, unconscious and barely clinging to life, the world outside continues to spin. If the soldiers mistake him for an enemy, they will shoot. If Iraqi fighters see him approaching the Americans, they will kill him and his entire family. Still, he keeps walking. His heart pounds so loudly he can hear it in his ears. Dust swirls around his feet. He lifts his hands slowly in the universal gesture of surrender, praying silently that the Americans will believe him. AUS patrol spots him. Weapons are raised instantly. Mohammed freezes, trembling, and shouts the only English words he can find. "Help. I can help you." The soldiers surround him cautiously. They search him, question him, and point rifles inches from his face. His voice shakes, but he tells them the truth. There is an American soldier being held in the hospital, alive but gravely injured. And he knows exactly where she is. The Americans exchange uncertain looks. This could be a trap, a setup, a suicide bomber pretending to surrender. But Muhammad's fear is real, his desperation raw. He tells them everything. The hospital's layout, the Fedayeen movements, Jessica's condition. His words pour out like a flood, each one risking his life further. When he finishes, the American soldiers look at their commander. The commander gives a nod. "Get him inside. We're hearing him out." Inside the command tent, Muhammad stands trembling but determined. A translator listens carefully to every detail he provides. Officers map out the hospital layout, ask clarifying questions, and push for precision. Muhammad explains passionately, gesturing with his hands, as if the very act of describing the truth might save Jessica's life. When he finishes, an officer leans toward him and speaks through the translator. "If what you say is true, we will get her. But you must go back. Back into the hospital crawling with Iraqi militants. Back to the very place that will kill him if they suspect anything." Muhammad hesitates only for a second before nodding. He is terrified. He is outnumbered. He is risking everything. But he is also driven by a fierce moral truth. One life saved is worth any danger. And so he prepares to return to the hospital, to darkness, danger, and the possibility that he may never see his family again. His courage, quiet and uncelebrated, becomes the spark that will ignite one of the most daring rescue missions of the war. After Muhammad returns to the American camp with his information, the atmosphere inside the command post shifts from uncertainty to urgency. Officers crowd around a long folding table covered with maps, photographs, intercepted radio logs, and satellite images of the city. The gravity of the situation becomes clear. An American soldier is alive, trapped deep inside a hostile city, guarded by unpredictable militia fighters who could move her or kill her at any moment. The information Muhammad provides is priceless. He describes the building structure, the approximate number of fighters inside the hospital, the condition of the entrances, the strength of the Fedayeen presence, and the fact that civilians and medical staff are mixed throughout the building. He even details where Jessica is located, a room on the first floor not far from the military wing the Fedayeen have taken over. But valuable as it is, nothing is simple. The officers debate whether the information is real or a trap. The Fedayeen have been known to use fake informants to lure American teams into ambushes. Every rescue in a war zone has the potential to go disastrously wrong, especially when the target is inside a crowded hospital. If they send a rescue team and the intelligence is false, dozens of American soldiers could die. If they hesitate and Jessica is moved or executed, the failure will echo around the world. Then the decision is made. They will move forward. A rescue of this scale requires coordination between multiple elite units. Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Marine reconnaissance teams, and Air Force pilots gather in briefing tents, studying the plan down to the smallest detail. Each participant knows that one mistake could turn the mission into a disaster. They also know that leaving a soldier behind is not an option. Satellite images begin updating in real time, showing the hospital and its surroundings. A Predator drone circles above Nazariah, sending back grainy black and white footage that confirms movement around the building. Analysts zoom in on rooftop shadows, on windows, on vehicles entering the hospital grounds. They count possible guards and mark every door, every stairwell, and every potential hiding place. The planning becomes intense and technical. They need a landing zone close to the hospital without drawing too much attention. They need night vision equipment, breaching tools, silent entry techniques, and a quick extraction route. They need backup firepower, gunships and drones ready to provide cover if things go wrong. And above all, they need absolute coordination. Seconds will matter. The stakes rise when a call comes from higher command. The Pentagon, the White House, and international media are already watching the situation. They want the mission done quickly and successfully. Failure would not only endanger the soldiers, but could reshape the political landscape of the war. The pressure on the rescue team intensifies. Still, the soldiers remain focused. They rehearse maneuvers on makeshift models of the hospital, going over room entries, hallway formations, and silent communication signals. They memorize every wall, every corridor, every turn. The mission must feel like muscle memory when they step into the real building. Muhammad continues helping, marking exact locations on the map. He clarifies which entrances are guarded, which hallways the militants use most frequently, and which areas of the hospital are least monitored. His help becomes the backbone of the entire operation. As night approaches, the rescue team gears up. The sound of helicopters warming their engines cuts through the air. Medics prepare equipment in case Jessica or any team members are critically wounded. Pilots check their navigation systems and coordinate flight patterns with hovering drones. Rangers load their weapons one magazine at a time, silently acknowledging the risk ahead. There is no ceremony, no speeches, no dramatic promises. Each soldier simply knows what must be done. The plan is simple but dangerous. Enter quietly, move fast, avoid engagements if possible, find Jessica, and extract her before the enemy understands what is happening. The team moves toward the helicopters, boots striking the ground in steady rhythm. Night vision goggles lower over determined eyes. Hearts pound, but resolve hardens. They carry the weight of one soldier's life, the hopes of her family, and the responsibility of a nation. As they board the aircraft, the rotors spin faster, cutting the desert air into a deafening roar. In the distance, the city of Nazariah glows faintly under the moonlight, broken, chaotic, dangerous. Yet somewhere inside that city, a young American soldier is waiting without knowing she has not been forgotten. The rescue mission is about to begin. Inside the hospital, the lines between safety and danger grow thinner with every passing hour. Rumors drift through the corridors like smoke. Some say the Fedayeen are planning to move the American prisoner before the Americans arrive. Others whisper that they might execute her to prevent a rescue. Fear pulses beneath every conversation, and even the medical staff begins working with a tense, nervous urgency. Everyone senses that something terrible is about to happen. Jessica lies weakly on her bed, exhausted and fading in and out of consciousness. Her injuries are severe, broken bones, deep bruises, internal trauma. But the greatest threat isn't her body. It is the people who now control her fate. The hospital, once a place of healing, feels like a trap closing around her. Doctors argue quietly about her treatment. One group believes she needs immediate surgery too.